Good morning, good morning, everyone. How are we this fine London morning? I hope you're all well, huh? I'll really take out the wonderful musical interlude. Let me just check the usual technical side. All appears to be working well. I am feeling good this morning. This is the Motivator Show alongside Empress Abner with your wives. I hope you're all well. This is great. I am feeling great. It's a bit chilly here in London, but it's good. It's good. It's good. We need this cold just to reinforce the fact that, global warming hasn't completely taken over our lives. And I am feeling so good. I exercised this morning. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling alive. Oh, long may it stay that way, huh? Long may it stay that way. And you remember, your health is your wealth. All right, now then, let's get this show on the road, shall we? Let's get it on the road. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to Lyndon Resart, the inspired diabetic. Wasn't last week's show fantastic? Was he not an inspiration to you all, to us all, that our health is truly our wealth and how to eat well to maintain a healthy lifestyle? Even if you have succumbed to that condition of diabetes, you can still manage it through your deliberate actions, through your food. Let your food be your medicine. There's an interesting pioneer at galaxytheory.net, Dr. Stephen Ferguson. Those are his words, not mine. Let your food be your medicine. Let your food be your medicine. But Lyndon, I want to say a big rise up to you, a big rise up, and thank you for your wise words. Absolutely outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And long may you continue with your great works, okay? Long may you continue with your great works, okay? So let's move this show forward. First of all, before I say anything else, a big rise up to the Galaxy pilots on galaxytheory.net. Thank you to Ian King for taking us from night to day, and of course, the appreciation to the Galaxy management. I also want, of course, to remind you that this show is being transmitted live via galaxytheory.net, via The Motivator Show on YouTube and Facebook. And again, The Motivator, and I like to spell it DE space Motivator space show. So you can easily find us. I find it if you do it occasionally, go elsewhere, but The Motivator Show. And when you find us, give us a like, a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up, or even subscribe so you're notified of future shows in advance. Okay. And of course, we are also going up via Mixcloud audio transmission. Those of you who prefer Mixcloud, you can find us also under Mixcloud under The Motivator Show. Again, give us the thumbs up all round. Give us the thumbs up. I'm told the algorithms like the thumbs up. It's an affirmation that we're doing the right thing. Yeah, this is truly an edutainment show. Yes, long may it continue that way. Hey, now, next statement, of course, is to remember these health messages have been the most consistent, most impactful part of my public messages. Yeah? This content is intended to inspire that you are able to translate these words into action. And remember that success is ours for the taking. I didn't say yours I said ours for the taking. It's a collective effort to help each other to do better. But starting with your health is an absolute requirement. I'm particularly concerned that following last week's show, that there's been really strong feedback, okay? And understanding that the health figures, as we experience them, are unacceptably, well, I'm about to say damning, but I will say damning indictment on us and how we live our lives. Okay? I've said many times that we do not discuss our health with sufficient enthusiasm, vigor, as we discuss other matters, such as racism and so on, or how people done us ill or bad, as it were, okay? I want you to think about your health as being as important as life, okay? Does that make sense? As important as life. It is quite evident, very evident, that if we're dying before our times, if we're suffering from ailments before we should, that is the result of our actions. And I want you to think about it. Think about your actions and the impact your actions may have on yourself and others. That's why I talk about health in the first few segments of the show. Because your health is truly your wealth. Could I simply ask you all, please, just consider these facts. I ask you to consider the amount of sugar that you're currently consuming. Mm-hmm. Whilst it's a wonderful, pleasant ingredient to add to our foods, it's the quantum and the regularity that we consume each day, in many cases of our lives, and the cumulative impact that might have on your general wealth, your health. So I simply ask you to consider the amount of sugar you're currently consuming. Do you need to add those sugar to your teas and coffees? Do you need to consume those so-called soft drinks? Mm-hmm. Do you need to eat those cakes in the quantum in this part of the year we tend to consume? And do we therefore think about the long-term implications for our health? Evidence suggests that too many of us do not consider the impact. Too many. With the consequence that diabetes pervades our community to an extent that is unacceptably high. It's having long-term implications for us all. I say for us all, it's not just the individual, but an individual is a part of family, the family is part of the community. The community, of course, feels for each other, whether you're conscious of it or not. So I ask you to consider the amount of sugar you're ingesting. And do you need to consume quite so much? Do you need to have additional sugar in your diet at all? I no longer buy sugar from the grocery store, but I've got a sweet tooth. I admit to having a sweet tooth, but I no longer buy sugar from the grocery store. Okay. I've trained my mind that I no longer need to buy sugar from the grocery store. And whenever I'm presented with sugary, lovely sugary items, I resist. And I respectfully decline the offer to consume. Because the effect of diabetes, as Lyndon last week made it clear to us, the effect of diabetes on our physiology is quite profound. So I simply ask you to consider the amount of sugar that we consume. Okay? Diabetes is real. Diabetes is real. Oh, I think we've got Empress Abner. Bring her into the studio. There you go. Ah, Abner, are you there? My Empress, are you there? She'll start talking in a moment. So let me continue. I also ask you, please, to consider the amount of salt that we are ingesting into our bodies. Salt we add for additional enhanced flavoring, they say. This is learned behavior as children that we take into our adulthood. Particularly those of us who live in the West and so on, the need for additional salt in our diet is very doubtful at the very least. But I invite experts out there to ring in and say otherwise. But as far as I'm aware, the consumption of salt to the extent that it appears in our foods is unnecessary. It's unnecessary because it exceeds our maximum daily requirement. The hardening of the arteries, the raising of our blood pressure or hypertension is real in our communities. Again, too many members of our communities have this condition. Hypertension, heightened or high blood pressure. I ask you please to consider the amount of salt you're adding to your diet. And do you need all that salt? And if in doubt, I say again, if in doubt, speak to your doctor, speak to your nutritionist, speak to your pharmacist, seek their professional advice. I am not professional, but I've got a public hat and I'm exposed to the real raw facts of public health as it relates to the communities and most certainly to my own community. Sugar and salt are doing great harm to our community. In the excess that we consume it, they are doing great harm to our community. So I simply ask you to consider the amount of salt that you are consuming each day. I no longer buy additional salt from the grocery store. Another item I no longer purchase. It's not needed. Not needed. I also ask you please to consider the amount of, let me get it right, carbohydrates and starch. Carbohydrates, often we're consuming carbohydrates in the West from wheat-based products, as well as starch, to be fair. Breads, yeah? The yams, yeah? Those root vegetables that are just packed with carbohydrates and starch, that we eat them every day. And I know yam is a staple. I get it. Huh? Jollof rice and peas. Yes, I get it. Yeah. Pounded yam. Yes, I get it. It's an integral part of our cuisine. But every day, I say to the community, every day, in the quantums that we consume it, is harmful to our bodies. So when you see us with the bloated shoulders, bloated abdomens, bloated thighs, bloated buttocks, yes, some people it kind of looks interesting, but the long-term health implications are profound for our community. When you're walking around with excess weight, it is putting additional burden on your body. Yeah. When you're accumulating all these fats, all these sugars in your blood, yeah, it has implication for your body. I'm told you should eat no more than a fistful of food per meal. And I'm gradually reducing the quantum of food that I believe I need to eat per day. And I'm perfectly fine. In fact, I'm better than fine. So I ask you to consider the amount of carbohydrates and starch. Starch also from rice. Just think about it and think about the long-term implication, particularly at this time of the year, when there's a tendency for us to eat far more than usual. I simply ask you to consider how much you're eating. Consider. I'm not giving you instructions. I'm not telling you what to do. I ask you to consider. And if in doubt, please speak to a professional, an actual professional, yeah, someone you know, someone who has access to your medical records, and therefore is qualified, is best placed to give you the advice that you seek. Okay? Because the advice for you may be different for someone else because you have particular issues. Yeah? Because we're all in our little ways, you know, not unique, but we're slightly different. But a trained professional is there to give you the advice you need. And lastly, I ask you to consider the amount of fat that you're consuming. Fat typically drawn from meat product that we consume, or dairy product that we consume. And dairy, I want to again keep emphasizing this. It is quite clear, that dairy products are just fat. Cheese is just hardened cow's fat. Yeah. Margarine, not so hardened cow's fat. Yeah. So I ask you please to be very careful with those products, because over time they have, and can have, I should say, a detrimental impact on your body, on your general health. I simply ask you to consider. But I want to encourage you, of course, to eat far more fruits and vegetables, particularly green vegetables, in larger quantums. Okay? And Lyndon last week was showing us, and began to show us, how we can cook different meals, yeah, with fruits and vegetables. And in this case, he did so to manage and sufficiently suppress his diabetes, because he started to eat the food that was best for his body. And if he can do it, you can do it. If he can do it, you definitely can do it. Most certainly can do it. Yeah? Because your health is your wealth. I want to encourage you all not only to eat far more fruits and vegetables, but drink at least 2 to 3 liters of water per day. And we are all aware that it's absolutely necessary to drink the appropriate amount of water. Okay, I have my water here. Okay, yeah, 2 to 3 liters of water per day. And if in doubt, speak to your GP, speak to your doctor, whoever has access to your medical records. He or she is best placed to give you the right advice that's suitable for you. Okay. Of course, it's critically important that you do all this, but you do this with a exercise regime, and you give your heart the opportunity to race because of your actions. That's what provides the opportunity to have a long, healthy, almost illness-free lifestyle into your older age. It is critical that we do this for ourselves and our loved ones. Absolutely critical. So I wish to encourage you all, please, to exercise, to drink the right amount of water, okay, each day. And seek professional advice when you're unsure. I've got my weights here. Oh, I know Empress Abner will be pleased with me again. There we go. I have my weights. There you go. Oh, and I do this for a good 30 minutes each day. Oh, she's smiling at me. Oh, there you are. Oh, I can tell you my impression. After doing this for 30 minutes on both arms, I might add. Yeah. Oh, I've got 2 sets of weights. I do this like this. So after a good run, to do this, I'm engaging my muscles, racing my heart. Yeah. I'm promoting this healthy lifestyle. But it's always necessary, I believe, to demonstrate to people that I actually do it. So collect that now. I actually do this. This is not simply talk. But of course, this is the Motivated Show, where we translate our words into action. And remember, success is ours for the taking. Good morning, my Empress Abner. How are you, my dear?
Good morning, good morning. Sorry, I had internet problems this morning, as per usual. So, yeah.
How are you? You're looking well, if I may say so.
Thank you. You know, some people just put a spring in your step sometimes. So, you know, what can I say?
I'm here to transmit as much positive energy to you as possible, to make you feel so alive, so invigorated. Oh, yes.
I wasn't really directing it towards you, but yeah, if you want to take it, take it.
It's reverberating back to you. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do for each other. Yeah, yeah, isn't that right?
Yes, that's great.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's stay strong. Let's stay invigorated. Yeah. Remember, success is ours for the taking. Oh, she's coughing away there. Oh,
sorry. I work in a school, so there's like loads of stuff going around, and I think I've caught it. So yeah.
Hey, don't worry. I know you can resist. Yeah. Hey, remember, this healthy lifestyle boosts your immune system. We had Professor Kevin Fenton here, the Public Health Director for London. Okay, and he had many titles as well. He talked about how to keep yourself healthy and to boost your immune response. Okay, and by doing so, you can resist many of these maladies that pervade our societies. You know, that's what you need to do. Yeah. So I communicate these messages to you all, but I've seen the figures of diabetes, hypertension, cancers, levels of exercise in the community. And these are like figures which are, I say again, are unacceptably high or low in the case of exercise. We need to do more for our collective good. I want to give a big shout out to all the women, in particular the women. I encourage you all, please, to exercise. Think carefully about diet. Think carefully about what you're teaching the children in terms of their general health. Yeah? Are you giving them money to buy sweets, or are you giving them money to buy fruits? Mm-hmm. Is sweet viewed as a treat, or is a fruit viewed as a treat? Yeah? Remember, it's your action that will influence that child into later life. I know we do it we think we're being loving, but actually, if a sweet is a treat and a fruit is something you instruct a child to eat, then that forms an attitude to fruits and sweets. I paused there because I wanted the women in particular to think it through. But of course, this is a message equally for the men, I might add, you know, equally for the men. Okay. Let fruits be the treats and the sweets be the, oh, we don't want to eat that. Oh, you know, let's create a different mode of behavior. Yeah, let's teach our children different modes of behavior. Let fruits be the treats, vegetables be the treats, and the sweets be the, oh, we don't want that. Yeah? Trust me when I say this to you. That would have a profound impact on the long-term health prospect for your sons, for your daughters. Anyway, I think that's enough for me. How about that, Empress? Tell me, how are you feeling today?
I'm going to start going back to the gym, hopefully, in the next couple of days. I'm looking forward to that. I'll be catching up with friends, painting my son's room, painting my bathroom.
Oh, wow.
And yeah.
Gosh, you're painting, huh?
Yeah.
Any particular colour?
I'm doing a basketball theme for his room. My room's going to be grey, and I think the bathroom's going to be a bluey grey.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow. Good for you. Oh, my gosh.
Well, as my mum says, anything a man can do, a woman can do too. So.
Okay. I'm going to raise a subject with you. Oh, my dear. I'm not going to disagree with you. Yeah, I disagree with you. But I am going to say that how we raise our sons and daughters so that they are good men and women is critical. Okay, and men and women are different. We have different roles by virtue of our differences. Okay, and therefore I say to you, great, absolutely great. I can't do everything a woman can do, but I can't give birth.
I was just going to say that.
Okay. Anyway, we're going to go down the rabbit hole now. So, and before I get there, I have a big shout out to the author of the Black Entrepreneurs Report 2021. Okay, I just want to remind you of that outstanding document and its implications for our community. Okay, but of course, Dr. Carlton Brown, the founder of Aspire Consultancy, okay, is someone I think we've all learned to respect. Okay, and of course, his role in the community is, I think, pretty critical in so many ways. But I just want to give a big shout out to him because his report is a seminal report, a report of such significance. I'll just bring up on the screen now. There you go. I just bring it up on my screen. There you go. Bring it in. There you go. There you are. This report is of such profound significance to our community that I would commend it to you. And those of you who've not had the opportunity to read it, I commend it to you. The Black Entrepreneur Report 2021 by Dr. Carlton Brown. I commend it to you. And of course, it has it was forwarded by Lord Michael Hastings, the second Chancellor at Regent's University and Chair of the Black Business Association and Black Business Institute at the London Chamber of Commerce. Okay, so this one I just give a big shout out to Dr. Carlton Brown, okay, of Aspire Consultancy. I hope you're well there, Doctor, and I hope you're listening in. It'd be fantastic. But I also want to give another shout out for another product of Dr. Carlton Brown. You might remember. Do you remember when we spoke about his other business venture? Do you remember what it was? Mama Brown's. Mm-hmm. Remember we talked about that wonderful product of his? Ooh, let me see if I can get up on my screen again. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, if I can find the right button to press. And I just want to bring it up because it was really quite impressive, Dr. Carlton Brown. And is, if I can find what I'm looking for, of course, there we go. Oh, there you are. Oh, I believe I've got it. Ooh, have I got it? No, I haven't got it. Oh, sorry, Dr. Brown. I want to find your, I think I've got the right button there. There we go. There you are, but my Empress. There you go. I'm going to bring this up. Let's play this for Dr. Carlton Brown because it's going to be pretty profound. Let's get a bit of taste of this one. There we go.
Mama Brown's has maintained traditional Jamaican recipes so that you can experience this authentic taste of Jamaica. Mama Brown's only use the finest quality tropical ingredients, flavoured by some of the world's finest rum, to ensure that we make the most scrumptious, delicious rum cakes. Exquisite packaging, exotic flavours, these Moorish, moist and scrumptious cakes are perfect for all occasions. traditional Jamaican rum cake. Exquisite flavors blended with the finest Jamaican rum makes this a scrumptious, perfect slice of the Caribbean. Available in original, pineapple, coconut, key lime, banana, and chocolate. Mama Brown, the quintessential Jamaican rum cake. Perfect for all occasions.
Okay, how about that, huh? How about that? He sent an advert in. I had no problem. Marshall and Browns.co.uk. That's where you can buy it. Marshall and Browns.co.uk. There you go. Those rum cakes. Oh my dear. I've acquired one, and trust me, I don't eat cake, as you know, generally, but I had a nice small portion. Oh, the wonderful memories. Oh, the wonderful memories.
I can't eat it.
Okay. Why is that?
It's got rum in it.
Oh, you can't eat. Oh, my gosh, my Edwards, we can't take the rum.
Muslims don't drink.
Oh, I understand. Oh, well, never mind. I'm going to relay the experience to you in that case.
Yes, I'll have the Jamaican ginger cake instead.
Okay, Jamaican ginger cake is, and they do that as well, as it happens. Yeah, at marshallandbrowns.co.uk. I think put in your search engine, those of you who are listening, that's where to go to acquire. You can buy it online. Now, my interest, has something interesting happened to you this week before we go to our guest?
Which part was interesting? Which one do you want to know? Because a lot of things have happened this week. It's been a very testing week. I think Allah has saved a lot of people and myself this week, so it's been very testing. I don't know. Can you refresh my mind? Because I don't know. A lot's happened this week.
Well, I wonder, because you work in the school settings and you're exposed to many members of our community, both parents and children, okay? And of course, your work is so critical if our community is to evolve, you know? So the support we give to ourselves, to those families outside of our own family, is critical. And I know you're doing outstanding work, okay? And I wonder if there's any antidote or interesting experience you've had this week with those young people, any special words that you've experienced from them. Tell us.
Do you know what I think? Obviously, next term when we go back to school, like a lot of our kids, I try to create a lot of aspiration days. So I think next year we'll be going to the London Stock Exchange to teach kids about women that work in IT and certain areas there. Some of my children have come over leaps and bounds with their behavior. I think I've got a lot more parents engaging. We're doing a lot of ESOL classes. We're teaching kids about more financial well-being. So I'm really looking forward to things like that at the moment. So, yeah.
Working with young people as you do, I know it's truly an inspired piece of work that you engaged in. So I want to commend you. Those who support schools and those who teach in schools and administer schools. I want to commend you all for your outstanding works. You know, I just want to give you a public record. I'm going to give you a thumbs up, if I may. There it is. You see my thumb?
If anyone wants to give me an award, that would be great as well. That'd be great. No, just joking. But yeah, and also my friends this year raised £440 for both of my schools. Wonderful. So if they were struggling with food, they've a lot of my friends, I want to say a big thank you to all my friends as well. A big thank you to all my friends that have donated brand new clothes, old clothes as well, to families that have come over to the country and have been struggling. So I want to say a big thank you to those guys as well. You've made my family so happy. You don't know how much you've changed their life dramatically in everything that you've done and you do to continue to support my work. I want to say a big thank you to those guys as well.
See, and you're just getting started. Do you see? You were uncertain for a moment, but I knew. In fact, I'm very much aware of the outstanding work. And you come into contact with, and they provide you with the energy you need to keep going and keep doing that good, So I know in school settings, there are such wonderful people who are usually unrecognized. Okay? So you raise all that money to help others. I think that's so commendable. Well done. Well done. Now, again, I want to recognize you all for that outstanding work, and long may you continue to do so. Long may you continue to do so. Yeah. So from my heart to yours.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, demotivator.
Well, I say again, teachers and those who support schools are amongst our many unsung heroes and heroines. Okay. And we as a community need to recognize their work and the incredibly important contribution that they make to our community's evolution, our community's growth. So that is really why I want to draw it out of you so you can admit the wonderful work that you're involved in. Because honestly, we need to recognize it.
Teachers, the head teacher I think they make my job so easy because they make sure I'm out there. They put me out there. And I think going to the early help community panel meetings really helps as well, because I think we need to know what's going on in our area. I think we need to address the issues of social deprivation, food poverty, wouldn't say antisocial behavior, all those kind of things that obviously affects our community in very different ways is very, very important. And I think we are trying to put money back into Southwark, but some of it is not going the way it should. And I think our community needs to get more involved.
Just a second, I've got a call on the line, although I'm not officially opened the line.
It would be nice to have a caller.
9976.
Yeah, just a quick one. The volume levels. Her one, the sister's one is slightly too loud.
Oh, too loud. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you could bring it down a little bit to match yours, or take yours up a bit to match hers.
Okay.
There's just a slight disparity.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yours is a bit lower than hers.
Mine is lower. Okay. Hopefully I made adjustments now. I appreciate you. Hey.
All right. Yeah, man.
Let the force of good continue to be over you. Thank you for that call. Thank you.
No, I'm just loud as well, so that might be another thing as well. I'm a loud person, so it could be that as well.
I've just adjusted those volume. Excellent. Thank you for that quarter. So I hear you, and my impress. There's so much going on, and there's so many people, good people in the community, making positive contributions right now, but are going unrecognized. And I know 99.99% of them do this for no personal gain. They do it because they understand the need. But I do believe occasionally we should recognize them and not take their work for granted. Yeah? Not take their work for granted.
100%. And I think sometimes parents think we are a quick fix and we're not. And I know housing is the biggest issue in London just generally, and there is no quick fix to it. There is no... I don't know what the solution is currently, but, we try to support as much as we can. And I think certain people put themselves in situations and certain people are not transparent about the situation that they're in. But I think as long as we're honest, we make great communications with Southwark, hopefully we'll continue to get better. But I do think sometimes the council has a role to play as well. But that's just my views on everything. So, yeah. But we're going to start on a good note this Saturday because I've got 2 weeks off and 2 days. So I'm excited. Yeah. And I hope I get better soon because I can't deal with this cough anymore on my chest.
Well, I might have said the old trope is that honey and lemon, in the right quantums, each day will make a real difference to you. Honey and lemon. It's the only remedy I can offer you right now. I can't offer you more because I don't know enough about your body. Honey and lemon. Hopefully, honey and lemon. Huh?
I think I might just go to my mum's house and get some lye soup, some Ghanaian soup to get it off my chest. I think I might have to do that.
You mean the pepper soup, huh?
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, pepper soup. Oh my gosh. I recall going to a Ghanaian family and I was given the pepper soup. And it was only a small bowl. But I have to tell you, my face became red. The perspiration was so noticeable.
It's not even that hot.
Yeah, but they all say that. Oh my dear. I recall the pepper. Oh, lordy. Hey,
I love pepper.
It's just, oh, yes. Oh, look, it was nice. Don't misunderstand. But the pepper was so overwhelming.
Absolutely. No, I love pepper. It ain't Ghanaian food if there's not pepper. I don't think there's...
Well, it definitely cleared my throat, that's for sure.
It clears your sinuses, so it's good. Anything that clears your sinuses is good.
Well, it definitely did something, I can tell you that much. But, I don't know. I suppose, here's my comment. Yes, pepper has its place, but I suppose when I cook with pepper myself, I cook with pepper so it's a flavoring. But it is a contributor to the overall flavoring, okay? But, if from the Caribbean, we've got the Scotch bonnet. Oh, Lord. Yeah? Wait. Hot. Lord, it's hot. Ay, why? I tell you. It's truly hot. Yeah. And I don't understand myself why we'd cook with quite so much.
Yeah. I want to say thank you to Empress Free. She's given me some tips of what to help with my chest. So thank you so much. I will put that into use.
Okay, Empress Free. I see your messages. Oh, I should just remind people that if you are viewing us via YouTube or Facebook under The Motivator Show, we welcome your contribution to the show via the chat lines. You can go into the chat. It's live. It's open right now. And you can communicate with us directly here in the studio. So I see Empress Free. She says, she talked about a particular product. What's that? Indica? Peppermint or eucalyptus, or rubbing that on your chest. Oh, I'm sure that will work as it happens. That will definitely help to clear the sinuses. Most certainly true. But I think you want a bit more than that because yours is an immuno response, I suspect. So it'll be interesting to see how you go. And can I ask you, Empress, because I'm just going to try and get hold of our guest. I think I'll get some problem getting in. Can you just tell us, in terms of your work in schools, well, what are the sort of current issues that you think are affecting children right now, and what support do you think that parents or should need to give to our children so that they can function well in a school setting?
I think mental well-being is a big issue right about now. I think some children are suffering an identity crisis. I think that's something I've noticed as well. Dealing with breakups in relationships. I think there's a lot of issues, but I think obviously behavior could be one of them. But there's so many different issues. I think that's affecting the community. And it's not just, I can't just say it's one, and it could be triggered by other things. It could be triggered by trauma. It could be triggered by moving schools. It could be triggered by many things, but I can't pinpoint and say it's one thing. It's many things, and it just depends on the child, their environment, things that are going on around them, their relationship that they have with the school as well, parents have with the school. It's many different things, and I think everyone is trying to deal with certain issues from the past, the future, and obviously the children see that as well. So it could be many different things that are going on within the home, but I wouldn't say I could pinpoint it. But I think a lot of the children are saying that they want their parents to have homes because that is the biggest issue, because they're either staying with friends, they're in temporary accommodation, or the home's not big enough. So there's many different issues, but I couldn't say I could pinpoint it. And, you know, parents come to me for many different things. But I think a lot of also is, and this is no fault of anyone else's, I think a lot of parents struggle to deal with their children as well.
Yeah.
And their behaviors. And I don't think that's a generational thing. I just think it's when sometimes schools go around saying, you know, if your parents do this or your parents do this, and I'm not saying this is all schools, you can say this or you can say that, or you can call Childline or you can call this, and it gets their parents into a lot of trouble, and they don't investigate what a child has said first and foremost. They just run with it and report parents. And I think that is a big struggle as well within our community.
I think you're right. And I also have identified that often too many children arrive at school and they've not eaten anything.
Yeah. That is the biggest thing. Food poverty is a big thing, and which is really nice because I know there's a company called neighborly.com, and they go to schools and give food donation surplus. So on Christmas Eve, me and my colleague are going out to donate food to families, which I'm so excited about because I love doing stuff like that. Like, I don't think in 2023 people should be starving when people are spending so much money on food in restaurants, and certain countries spend so much money on food and food wastage. 2022, 2023, people should not be starving. So, you know.
My Empress, absolutely. It is immoral. We as a species can and must do better. It is unacceptable. In this country of all countries, fifth richest country in the world, and you have people who are not able to secure enough nutrients to maintain their bodies.
And I definitely think we also need more food banks that are meant for people of different nationalities. I don't think there's enough food banks for people of different nationalities. Like, you've got Brixton Soup Kitchen, you've got Pecan, you've got Peckham Pantry. But I think there needs to be more because we are a diverse nation, and I don't think it meets the needs of the diversities of the people that we have in our communities. So
again, this is the observation I've made as well, that particularly during the pandemic, when food was somewhat challenging to obtain, particularly for those who were vulnerable, those who couldn't go out and find identify.
Yeah, and especially when you go to the market and it's plantain or plantain, whatever everyone wants to call it, when you have to buy 3 for £2.50 when it used to be 3 for £1.
Absolutely criminal. Yeah, absolutely criminal. Only 6 months ago, plantain was £1 for 3. And now £1.50. It's criminal. I agree. I say to people, don't buy it from them. Don't buy it from those criminals. You know, I say it's criminal. There's no justification for it. And if the current shops will not sell it to us at a price that is reasonable, then we've got to make even greater effort to buy our own planting and sell it to our own community.
Or maybe grow it.
Control the price.
Grow it.
Yeah.
Grow it in your backyard.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Now, I think we've got our guest is in the lobby area, but I believe he's just moved away from his camera. And I wonder if I can prepare our guest, bring our guest in.
Is he Ghanaian?
I'm going to let you speak to him. You can ask him that question. So it's a very nationalistic question. Huh?
It's not a nationalistic question.
Okay.
It's a question, isn't it? I can tell people where they're from by their names, so I'm asking a question. That's why.
I'm going to let you ask that.
SubhanAllah, like it's a question.
La la. I did want to ask my guest now. We could turn on your camera. I can bring you into the studio. It was there a moment ago. He went off to do something apparently. We'll just wait for him because we'll just wait for him to turn on his camera.
West London sell plantain for free for £1.50. Very good. South London needs to work on that.
Well, there's no doubt about that. But you know what? I don't blame the others who are selling plantain to us because you know what? If I may say so, gosh, we really should have made sure that our staple foods are accessible to us, and we've got a duty to ourselves to ensure a steady supply and not allow others to make these really punitive profits. You know. Oh, I see. Empress Free saying that in West London it's £1.50 for 3. Oh, I see. It's us in South London who are suffering.
Extortionate.
Then, isn't it?
Extortionate borough.
That's very annoying. Thank you, Empress.
I'm going to start going to West London to get planting for me and my mum.
I think so, but maybe that's what we need to do.
Go to West London.
Can I ask my guest to come on in and turn on his camera? You turned it off. Oh, there he's good. If I can get him in now, let's get this interview underway. There we come. He's back in. I'm going to bring him into the studio. Let's bring him into the studio. Don't you worry. I'm going to say good morning to you in a second. Let me just set this up for you. There we go. Let's move you across here. There you are. Now you're center stage. And I think we are set. Good morning, my elder Daniel. How are you?
Good morning, Brother Martin. I'm not sure if I qualified for the elder status, but yeah.
He's not an elder. He's not an elder. You can tell he's quite young. He's not an elder yet. Etise?
Yeah.
Told you he's Ghanaian. I told you I know my people.
I wasn't going to ask these nationalistic questions. You know what? We are Africans. Whether you're from the continent or from the Caribbean or from the Americas or otherwise, we remain African. Okay, and we are diverse people. Okay, therefore we have a broad range of cultures, but what unites us is that true identity that we are African. There you go. There you are. And those inclusive narratives is what I want to encourage, you see. There you are, huh?
Yes.
So I'm just very proud of being Ghanaian. I told you this. Very proud. Even when Ghana was playing in the World Cup, I was very heartbroken. I keep telling you this. It was hard.
No. Okay. not the best of results.
Ready. Enough. I want to start our interview because time is going to fly by. Okay. And the last time we had you on, my bedroom was 2 years ago, I believe, more than 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was somewhere in the middle of the pandemic. You know?
In the pandemic, I recall. Oh my gosh! Yes. And the technology I was using then was quite different, but we've continued to evolve, and I continue with these shows primarily because I've discovered that there is a thirst for these types of communication platforms. Okay.
Hello, Brother Martin. Are you still there?
I'm still here. Yes. Around this time, I noted around 9 o'clock, there's always a slight hiccup. I noticed there's something in the system somewhere, but I'm still very much here. So what I'm going to do, if I may, I'm just going to ask you just to introduce yourself. Just give us your various professions your professional background. Just give people a taste of who you are, first of all. I'll ask you to introduce yourself.
All right. So good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here. And Brother Martin, thanks for having me. My name is Dalian Adolfo. I'm one of the co-founders of an educational initiative called Ancestral Voices. And the main purpose of Ancestral Voices is it deals with the preservation and documentation of African spiritual traditions and practices. In terms of background, professions, or career, if you want to put it in that specific context, my background is in education. I used to be a teacher. I do or carry out academic research. I'm also a designer by again profession, because that's one of the things I used to do before I was seconded into teaching. So mainly graphic, visual and communicative arts. So yeah, those are some of the hats I wear. And obviously also when I can, I'm very active in the areas of trying to write our world as best as we possibly can, from the history of colonialism that we all live with. So yeah, that's probably me in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, and that's a really good intro. And to my first question, and this is one I just want to. This will kind of set the scene, I hope, for our follow-on questions. So, what is the difference between the traditional African religious philosophies and the Abionic, I should say, monotheistic religions of Christendom and Islam and Judaism, for example.
Okay, the philosophical underpinnings of African, it's a cosmology, really. We call it spirituality, and sometimes that can, in a sense, should we say, limit or box it into something which it's not only that of. So African spirituality, obviously, yes, deals with a quest or questions around our source of creation, where we come from, what created us as a species, what created existence, as a thing that we're experiencing. So there are quite a few differences, but I'll try and hone in on a few that are perhaps, should we say, relevant for this conversation, or can springboard us into other areas. The first is to do with nature, and again, this is where we see the core principle difference. Nature is a very important aspect of African spiritual traditions, because it's from nature that we derive our very existence.
Yes.
So in African, yes, cosmological corpus is what we call it, because it looks not just as at your relationship to the earth that you're living on, but to the very universe that you inhabit. So nature plays a very, very, very important role. Whereas perhaps the main monotheistic religions see nature and us as being created by something else, specifically a man in a particular place. In the African spiritual corpus, nature is even one of the expressions of the creative source itself.
Yes.
So in the African perspective, what we call God, or the supreme head, is a confluence of forces. Yeah, and God is not most importantly a thing, a human being. Yeah, God doesn't have the shape of a man, because then you end up gendering God, and then you discriminate against another gender. In the African corpus, we have two forces that come together to create, which is the masculine force and a feminine force. And again, you can see this just an extension of how even any species procreates and continues existence. It involves a man and a woman. You can't have existence without one. Scientifically, logically, rationally, it won't make sense. So that's one of the core differences, that in the African conception, God, or the creative source, is not a single entity, and it's not gendered either. It is formulas. It is spirit. It is energy. Yeah, and this energy has what they've codified as a masculine and a feminine force. Usually, another way of seeing this expression in nature is this: they will say things like, or the understanding will be that the masculine force is the atmosphere, yeah, above.
Yes.
Yes, and then the feminine is below, usually associated with the earth. Why? Because it's the earth that produces. The earth is a bit like a woman's womb. It can, whereas a woman's womb will bring forth children, the earth will bring forth plants. It will bring forth the food that we need to survive. Yeah, because without the plants and the foliage that the earth produces, there's no way you can sustain your existence. Yeah. So we correlate and symbolize a lot of what we perceive from nature. This is the core to African cosmology / spirituality. What do we see in nature that informs us about us as also a living species, which is part of nature? So nature is perhaps the most important component within African the spiritual understanding, and nature also fulfills all the three should we say ideas that we find in religions now about what God is meant to entail: omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, all powerful. Yeah?
Yes.
One tsunami everything we've accomplished in this world will be gone in an instant.
Yes.
We are not more powerful than nature. So, you know, where we even find in certain religious texts about God giving human beings dominion over the earth, it doesn't really make sense. Because as I said, one tsunami, let's look at Pakistan, let's look at Japan, however many years ago, we're not more powerful than nature. We do not have dominion over nature. You know, whoever made the assertion clearly hasn't experienced the power of nature. Yeah? So that's the omnipotent aspect. We find it in nature. The second thing being the omniscient. You know, how does the moon know how often to rotate around the world for us to create what we call a calendar year? Yeah. Nature has its own intelligence. It knows when we need to have daylight, when we need to have the night time. Yeah. Where we have certain constellations that align with the earth that creates particular changes within our own bodies.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that we know how we're not separate from nature, again, one of the things that ancestors know fully well, we find in the woman's menstrual cycle, where it very often aligns itself with the movement of the moon. What is this intelligence? What is this force that allows, you know, because nobody's going to say a planet has a consciousness, are we? But somehow, as I said, everything knows how to align with itself.
Right.
These planets, they don't have a Bible, so they don't have any commandments with which to follow what, but they know what to do. And what they do is also what keeps us surviving on Earth. Okay, so that's the omniscient part. There's this universal intelligence that is within nature itself. It can't be contained in a small book to say this is God's word for everybody. Do you understand? So we are ancestors look at nature and work with nature because we are nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The third principle being so there's omnipotent, omniscient, and it always gets me omnipresent.
Of
That's
course.
it's always there whenever else. Yeah. So again, in African tradition, you know, God isn't sat in one place casting judgment on all of humanity because nature is present everywhere. Yeah. The most important aspect to nature for us perhaps is the wind that we breathe. Okay.
Yes.
So if you know anyone can mention the name of whatever sage, whatever greatest name they have in their religion, that if you stop breathing, you're gonna die.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever the name or conception you can think of now, it's not going to help you. You need the wind to survive. You will be dead in less than 10 minutes. So in this case, is the wind more powerful than whichever idea we've created about a man that lives in the sky? Because without the wind, you're gonna die. Your very existence depends on the wind, or rather your association with the wind. So again, when our ancestors have said nature is a manifestation of this concept of the creative soul, you can see the evidence in life itself.
Absolutely.
Okay, because the wind, forget the foods we get from nature. The wind, without the wind, you die quicker than even not having food for 2 weeks or so. So that's one of the first differences. How we perceive what we call God or the creator. Yeah. The second most important thing as well is the fact that African spirituality is very self-centered. And let me make that clear. What that means is that in the traditions, every person is born to come to this world with a particular purpose, a destiny that you have to fulfill. This is why you're born. You're not born because you know your parents were happy one evening. There's a reason, and in most cases, you actually even have the should we say opportunity to decide your parents. Your parents don't decide how you know you came. You've come here for a particular reason.
Yes.
So the African spiritual corpus puts a lot of responsibility on the self. You know, you can't go and be doing certain, should we say, deviant acts and say, "Oh yeah, no, God instructed me to." Everything is about you because your responsibility for living is all about you. Yeah, so it does not allow you to be able to say, "Oh, this is what my God has told me to do." No, and there's even no, should we say, one central agency for this concept we call God, because there's different forces that are in nature that everyone can connect with on a different level, so to speak. Do you understand? So it's a very deregulated, should we say, system of reverence.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's very core, this aspect of being able to force you to have personal responsibility for your action, rather than putting it externally to yourself and saying, "Oh, this is what my scripture has said I'm supposed to do, so I can do." No, everything comes down to you.
Yes.
Yeah, there's that personal responsibility aspect. And even when you look within the traditions and you go higher in some of the initiations, you come to understand why there is this should we say, understanding. Because when you go deeper, you start to realize that in the African tradition, the oldest ancestor you have in this world is what we call God, because that's the source of everything.
Yes.
Yeah, everything comes from that source. Yeah, it doesn't come from anywhere else. So your very oldest ancestor is this expression we call God, and we find that within ourselves. Because what do we have in nature, Brother Martin, that we don't find in ourselves? When you die and they bury your body, in a few years there'll be no separation between you and the earth.
That's right.
You are the earth.
Yes.
Right? As I've already mentioned, if you do not breathe for the next 10 minutes, you are going to die. So your connection to this very essence we call the wind is what's keeping you alive. No other fantasy anywhere else. So again, your respiratory system is another sign that shows you are nature.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. So I will stop there because we can go into some depth. But let's take these two things: the way we view what creation or God is, and the fact that it's not a religion, it's not a spiritual system either. It's just a way of being with yourself and your others. The core self-responsibility.
I
These
think
are
that
the two ideas.
And what you've just described is not a religion; it's just a way of being. And I think that's so perfectly eloquently said. Thank you. But I know that there are many who are listening who have religious affiliations. Okay, and they will be uncertain. Because of course, are we challenging their religious affiliation? But in fact, we're not. And I think thank you for saying that. If I may go to my co-presenter, Empress, you've got your next question, Empress.
What did African theologians scribe their inspired thoughts? Theologians.
I think why didn't?
Yeah. The very idea that Africans, you see, didn't write. This is one of the biggest lies of the colonialization process.
You tell them.
And I'm not, because I'm not a historian in the traditional sense of the word. What I'll just refer, for those who are genuinely interested, because sometimes we ask questions, but we don't actually go and make the time to find the answers to the question. I'll just direct you to the works of the UK historian Robin Walker. The amount of African writing systems in existence that they've made attempts to wipe out, it will shock all of us. Just about nearly every part of Africa, there is a writing system that was erased totally. Okay, so in terms of
hold on. Say that again, because it's such a powerful statement. Just say it again. Let's remind people what actually happened through colonialism. Just say again, what did they do with our writings? What did they do?
In just about every aspect of Africa, you have a form of writing system that has been totally erased just for the purposes of erasing African culture and contributions altogether. So Robin Walker, and knowledge sharing is caring. He has a specific learning program now called the Black Secret. Or your audience are free to go Google it. Yeah, you learn about writing systems from places that you never thought of, such as Cameroon. Yeah, and then now we can go back to, should we call it, the African classical civilization, which we now call Egypt. Yeah, Egypt, the Sudan, Ancient Kemet. Ancient Kemet had they're really the only place where we find what we might call scripture. But then let's not forget, it's also in ancient Kemet where one of the first Africans tried to turn the spiritual system into a religion, a man by the name of Akhenaten. Yeah, he's the first person to create what we call a monotheistic, or attempted to turn the Egyptian way of life into a monotheistic religion where ultimately he was making himself God. Yeah, this is where we find the origin of religion. So no, we have sacred texts like the Book of Coming Forth by Day in ancient Egypt, and most importantly, we have one spiritual corpus that survives to today, which is the Yoruba Odu Ifa. The Odu Ifa is one of the most longest standing compendiums of what we might call scriptural thought. But again, remember back in the and even still to now, the Odu Ifa is only really Africans in the diaspora in recent times who started putting these things to paper. But you're supposed to be able to memorize these 256 sacred verses.
Yes.
You're meant to memorize it, and people were memorizing it. So this speaks to the power of your mind, really, on a certain level, to be able to not only memorize these verses, but also because in your own practice as a Babalawo, you start to identify even more verses. It's an ever-changing corpus. It's not, quote unquote, God's word that is stuck in time and place.
Right.
Yeah, as we have in certain other scriptures, because you find that as human beings develop and grow in their societies, some of the ideas, let's say an idea that was sensible in the medieval times, will not be sensible today.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So no, this idea that we don't have even a scriptural a sacred corpus or verses in African spirituality it's false. It's false. There are some traditions that still have them to today. But largely, yes, we seem to more lean towards an oral tradition. Yeah, and that should also remind us there's a certain power of the mind as to why, if you can remember these things, your attention must be quite serious. Yeah. So
you are absolutely right. And it's an important statement to note that our written scribes, many were either destroyed or now occupy the British Museum, the American museums, European museums, or the Far Eastern museums right now. 98 or more % of all our artifacts and manuscripts are now held in their private collections.
Okay? Absolutely.
And we do not have access to our memories, to our artistic achievements. Okay? And that is imperialism, and that is most certainly the ongoing effect of colonialism till today. Yeah, till today.
Absolutely.
Till today.
As you can see, the resistance of Europe just returning stolen artifacts. Why would you not want to return something that you've stolen from someone? But then every minute you get, you're lecturing the world about the human values and consideration, and but you're a living contradiction of everything that you're preaching. So yeah, and it's worthwhile we note and mention these things.
So it's so important for particularly the children to be aware that we have many written formats across the continent that have been wiped away, destroyed, okay? In many cases, erased from memory in some cases. Okay? But those works are held here in Europe, held in America, held in the Far East right now. And if we had access to those works, we will be able to remember those works.
Wow, 100%.
Yeah, beautiful. And I noticed, my brother, that one of the most prominent African deities is OSUN. Why is she followed with such reverence? Why such reverence? Across every continent, I noticed that there are festivals going on right now. Why is OSUN such a powerful name? And even I'm aware of it because I'm from the Caribbean.
Yes,
I'm aware. So tell me why is that, Yusuf?
Yeah, well, I don't. First of all, I don't think I can give you the definitive answer as to why Oshun might seem to be the most popular of the deities, or the African energies, because she's, I guess, the one that's made her perhaps most famous in our current time is Beyonce, because she made a whole album dedicated to and she dog whistled at Oshun quite a lot. They made this whole album that was reverencing many of the African energies. I would say that there are like three main concepts that again we can trace and see how it follows African traditions all across. So you have the tradition, for instance, of the blacksmith. So a blacksmith would have been a very important figure in traditional Africa, because that's who's making your earrings, your what's the other thing, like cooking pots and pans. So the energy that's associated with transformation or the blacksmith is the energy we call Ogun. And Ogun is another energy you find very popular across the whole of the West Africa region, and even across, I'll say, the rest of Africa, because every society has the tradition of a blacksmith. So you find that Ogun is also another very popular energy. Perhaps one of the reasons why Oshun is because Oshun is associated with rivers, and you find rivers in nearly every area. So areas where they're landlocked, even you will find a river. So perhaps this could be one of the reasons. The other reasons as well is that Oshun is associated with childbirth. Okay. Yes. And childbirth again is another common thing you will find everywhere. You can't have a community if no one is producing children and extending that lineage on. So that could be one of the associations that has made Oshun perhaps the most populous of the Yoruba deities. But again, you have these archetypes in other traditions. So if you go to Ghana, there's a big river, I believe they call it Nanaisi. And Nanaisi is, you can see the same archetypes that are associated with Oshun in Nanaisi. So again, as I've mentioned, you will find rivers everywhere, even in landlocked countries. Yeah, perhaps a country that doesn't have access to the ocean, you won't find the concept of Yemanja, or what others might call Mami water. These kind of ideas. So again, your nature determines, and when I say your nature, your immediate environment determines the kind of conceptions about the forces that exist in that space. So Oshun, I would say, most likely because we find rivers everywhere. B, she's associated with childbirth and healing, and that makes these qualities are a staple part of what human beings want their lives to be. Everybody wants to make sure your wife, partner is going to be giving birth successfully, coming back with her life intact, with no. Do you see what I mean? So this is what perhaps make Oshun one of the most popular deities from the African traditions that we know.
It's fascinating, but because in my case, and you can't see the image. I've got her up as being the goddess of divinity, femininity, fertility, beauty, and love. Huh?
Yes.
Wonderful. I recall as a child being given an image. Those words were inscribed, and I've got an example. You can't see it, but it's on the screen now. And these are my earliest memories of African cultural traditions, and wow, it was the most moving experience.
Absolutely. The British Museum, actually, just this September gone, they had an exhibition that it was called the Divine Feminine Power, I believe, and it featured archetypes of female power and potential across many traditions, and Oshun was one of the main ones featured in there. So I think it has to do with how common we find attributions to the energy. This is what makes
at the beginning of each of the festivals, you would have a torch, and again, you can't see it. I've got a torch. What's the significance of the torch at the beginning of the festivals?
I haven't attended the Oshun festival, so I'm not particularly clear on what the iconographies represent within the whole cause. There's not just the torch, there's also a pilgrimage on a particular day. Yet there's all these elements that have sacred significance, but I'm not fully versed on all of them.
That's all right. That's okay.
Martin, so.
I did my research, you see.
Okay, it's fantastic. But you know what's sad about the Oshun situation as well is, as I've mentioned, the British Museum will happily charge people to come and do their research. But the thing is, we do not have the Oshun festival celebrated in the UK. Yeah, it's not part of the UK's religious calendars festival. Over the last 2-3 years, Diwali has now become a common mainstay. The Sikh traditions are we celebrate Chinese New Year. Aspects of the Buddhist calendar. Oshun's festival, Brother Martin, is celebrated by millions across the world.
Can I ask you, before we pursue that line, I'm gonna take my co-presenter's next question, which will relate to this point. Empress.
The next question is, the Council of African Diasporic Indigenous Spiritual Systems aims to secure a change in the British legal system. You strive to advocate and lobby for the protection and accurate representation of African spiritual knowledge systems. In court, we swear to tell the truth, recognize the deity of your choice. How can viewers sign your petition?
Wow, absolutely. Thank you for that. Thanks for that, Councillor Martin. And this is where we were going, and this message is very important for all African/Black people, and I can't emphasize it enough. Very often we all assume that racism is something that started off or has to do with our skin color, this, that, and the third. But when you read the first decree from the Pope, given to the Spanish, you don't want to really call, they are no explorers, where these people were just hell-bent mercenaries who went around to enslave people. The Pope's edict describes why, and it doesn't talk about your skin color or whatever other imagined reason why you think racism is. It talks about your culture. Because it says, go and civilize these heathens. It uses another word, I think pagan also. Some of those words we find now. So much of what we derive, what we call racism originating, is because your culture poses a threat to somebody else's. It's not really about your skin color. That's just a way of weaponizing the ideas. So for every African Black, whether you think you're Christian, you're Black Hebrew Israelite, you're Black Muslim, if we do not fight to have a certain level of representation of African traditions, everybody's just looking at you as you're just borrowing somebody else's religious corpus. That is the very foundation. And, I'll be very happy for someone to show me other evidence. Yeah. So we are not going to get rid of this idea that you're less than these so-called others. Apparently, yeah. Let's be clear, because this is not true in itself anyway. But if you cannot show what your culture has contributed to the world, you're not getting any form of respect anywhere. Yeah, and there's no other religion that can come and save Africans. That's not possible. This conception of the idea of God doesn't work like that. Otherwise, look at all the amount of heinous crimes that have been committed by different so-called religion in the name of their God. Indeed. What kind of God is this that's instructing others to go around and kill its own creations? That doesn't make sense. But I want to stay on point. And the point is, if we do not fight to have African culture and traditions respected, it doesn't matter. We will continue to keep facing this roller coaster or cycle of constant oppression, because it started with an attack on our culture. Yeah, you have to ask yourself, why is it that much of African culture and traditions, again, become erased? We mentioned the issue of writing systems. how is it that still to today most people don't know that beyond ancient Egypt there are many other writing systems?
That's right.
Darlian, can I ask you something? So are you saying that traditional spirituality has not caused heinous crimes? It's just the other, like say it's Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Sikhism, whatever, they've caused a lot of heinous crimes because of the books that they follow and things like that? Is that what you're trying to put out there? Or you're saying that traditional religion, traditional spirituality doesn't cause as much pain as all the other religions? That's what I'm trying to understand in what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. We know we have evidence of the Crusades and the millions of people that were killed by Christian crusaders going to take over Jerusalem. We still know to date, certain Muslim followers who take their religion and go and kill off people. Let's look at the Yazidis in Iraq and Syria just recently. What happened to them? Can you show me an example of where anybody's gone to war in the name of any African god? And this, we're going historically, we can even go as far back ancient Nubia, when what we would call the Sudanese of today went and took over the place we call Egypt today. That war wasn't in the
I personally believe it's down to... Sorry.
Let me finish. Go ahead.
We have no evidence. You don't know any African who's ever gone to war in the name of their God to say, my God says, this is how I prefer the world to be. You are following the wrong God. I'll come and kill you off. There's absolutely no...
I can't speak for everybody else. I can speak for certain Muslims, and it's not down to God, it's down to perception. They used God's name, but it's down to perception of what someone believes and interpretation of the Quran, the Sunnah. So I don't necessarily believe they're doing it in the name of God. They do it down to perception. Okay. So I don't know what's happened in the Crusades. I can only speak for modern day Muslims, but everyone's interpretation and understanding of the Quran is very different. So when someone says it's in the name of God, we will say, other Muslims who understand the religion will say it's not in the name of God.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say when they do acts, it's down to them as an individual, not down to the act of God.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Okay. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But what remains in terms of the body politic is when you go to, let's say, the court to help the court system. In there, you have space for praying to Allah a particular way. When I go, and I've been to court many times for many issues, there's no space for any African expression there. There's no space to mention Oludumare. There's no space to mention Yame. There's no space to mention Tigari. But there's space for the Sikhs, the Buddhists, the Hindus. Yes. What's going on here? So, this is not a competition. And I know that sometimes I've been doing this a long time. Yeah. So I know especially where I get the most resistance from. Nobody is denouncing anybody's religion. The idea is, if you're happy with your religion, you won't go around demonizing and propagandizing against other people.
Oh, 100%, I agree with you. But in Islam, it teaches us to accept everybody. It does. And there's quotes in the Quran to accept people for who they are, because we are not here to judge people. Everybody is to live in the world as they want to live. You understand? Right. So I don't demonize African traditions and spirituality because I come from that. Do you understand? Right. My parents still practice certain things, but I know there's parts of the spirituality that my family don't practice because they feel a certain way about it, and everything has its good and bad, if that makes sense, because there's a balance. Nothing can stand without the bad, and nothing can stand without the good. You understand? So I don't demonize anybody. If you want to practice what you want to practice, that is down to you. I don't know how the court systems run and how Hinduism and Buddhism and Sikhism has come into the court, so this is news to me. But I think obviously everybody should have free will to and be in a certain aspect of whatever part of society we're in. But I think we also, if we bring everybody...
I am Empress. Hold on a moment. Hold on, my Empress. Hold on. I've got to start it now. Hold on, my Empress. Hold on a moment. Hold on there. Hold on. I want to go back to my guest, though.
Okay. Sorry. It is his time.
I heard you take a deep breath. That's why I knew. And this is good because we want to get engaged in this subject. Okay, we've got to appreciate our ancestral traditions, okay? And our spirituality is an integral part of who we are, okay? And this is what has been oppressed by others as they come into the continent, okay? So
no, I understand, because I've seen Dalian perform and I've seen him talk.
I realize. Hold on a second.
Before, so I recognized him.
Hold on, my impress. Hold on. So the oppression of our writing, our scriptures, is a good example of it. The fact that there are so few that have survived incursions by others into the continent, and the fact that we had to ask the question today, why were not the philosophies written down? When I knew the answer to the question, they were written down, and many of the manuscripts are now in the British Museum, the American museums, the European museums right now. More than 98% of all of our manuscripts, our artifacts, are held in their museums right now. And that's the problem we have at the moment. And therefore, you're not able to refer and use these as reference points. Okay? So I get it. I want to go back to my guest, though, because he was really illuminating the subject in ways that we haven't had the opportunity to debate, to discuss in this format previously. So I'm pleased for this discussion, because it just so happens, I'm going to call you my elder daddy, and I have respect for you for your vast knowledge. I just happen to have met the royalty from Nkiti State in Nigeria. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Or indeed, I hadn't realized the honor that had been bequeathed to me, and I hope that he and his entourage are listening to this program right now, and they might wish to contribute. I'll put the number on the screen soon. They may wish to interact with you shortly. But if I may, I want to go on to my next question, because clearly we've stimulated, triggered, and I can feel the vibration both in the studio and outside right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are the psychological benefits for viewers of African ancestry to better understand our religious or spiritual traditions before the invasions of our homeland? What's the psychological benefit that will be derived that they better understand our spiritual, indeed religious traditions?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Brother Martin. And before I go any further, I'm going to let you know, please, if you can, I've put the link to the Osun's petition in the private chat. Please put it to your audience, and I'll urge everyone to sign. Yeah, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Judaic, Black, Hebrew, Israelite, whatever you want to call yourself, because as I've said again, our oppression doesn't start from what even religious affiliation you have. It starts from the fact that it was very clear these people's culture need to be totally eradicated from this earth. This is where enslavement starts from. It doesn't start from anything else. So do not think you can achieve what you're aiming to achieve when you're still you've believed the lie that your tradition is some witchcraft or some demonic something else, whatever else that your clergy have told you over hundreds of years. The propagandizing against African tradition goes back hundreds of years. Okay, it didn't just happen yesterday. So-called Muslim terrorism only started after 9/11. Yeah, this is when they took an institutional approach to demonizing Islam. African spirituality has been getting that since the time of the Pope's first decree. Yeah, so I'm not here to do grievance Olympics, but that's the reality of the history. So we cannot move forward unless we're all fighting for African culture and traditions, even if we're not going to be practitioners of it. In the African cosmology, nobody needs to force you to say, follow this particular god or you go to hell. These concepts don't even exist there. Yeah, this is just what many missionaries have created and forced into the culture. So the most important benefit that we can have from fighting against the demonization against African spirituality. And my brother Martin has just asked the question about what the psychological benefits are. You know, because we're colonized people and we're all oppressed, let me refer you back to the people who we all respect their word for things, which is Europeans. So, you know, Western science has come out with this concept that they call epigenetic memory. You might also see it as something called chromosomic memory. Yeah. And what this whole idea has to do with is the very fact, well, they actually use it to make medicines, is what mRNA medicines are based on. You know, mRNA medicines have become popular since Corona because this is a type of, should we call it, medical pathway that deals with your genes. So scientists, or rather European scientists, came to the realization not too long ago that the thing we call your genes has the capacity to possess memory and to also communicate with each other.
Yes.
Okay. Now, where this even shines a light on the African Asian understandings is the fact that ancestors have always told us, or rather the elders, that you can communicate with your ancestors. And you can communicate with your ancestors because your ancestors exist within you. But when you speak like that, people tell you, oh, that's some African superstitious nonsense. However, when a European scientist comes and tells you the same thing, that the cells in your body possess this memory and this ability to communicate with each other. So I'm going to use it to make a pill for you to take. Most people are like, yeah, give me the pill, man. I'll swallow 100 if you need to. Same concept expressed differently. So the greatest psychological benefit we can have from, again, Councillor Martin, let's remember, we don't do conversions in our traditions. Nobody can teach you God. You already should know God because you're an expression from God. Nobody needs to convert you to nothing, right? So the most important thing you can do, even if you don't seek to go and practice African spiritual traditions, is to know about the ideas within them. You know, I just explained the scientific concept to you now, very big one, epigenetics, chromosomic memory. But this idea has already existed with Africans for millennia. So even if you knew about some of our ancestral concepts, you would start to see where modern society brings up many African ideas and never references it back to Africa. So most Black people are walking around still of the idea that, you know, Black people have never contributed anything to history.
How ridiculous, huh?
We've just been slaves. Sorry?
What a ridiculous thought that we've not contributed anything.
Do you know what I mean? We've just been slaves, never done anything, but nearly everything, even down to things like rice farming.
Yes.
Yeah, they had to take people from the place we call Senegambia today just because they were experts at growing rice. But they'll tell you today that, oh, all they were slaves. They took a specific group of people for their skill set. Let's not even start talking about what happens south in Southern Africa. So the problem we have today really is Black ignorance about itself. That's the main problem. We don't have any other problems because most of us are not going to take the time to go and read the works of, you know, people I've already mentioned, from the Robin Walkers to the Sheikh Anta Diop. They'll never take the time to invest in that learning, but they'll go and invest in a TV to escape the reality of the oppression. When really that knowledge, if you even knew a quarter of that knowledge, you will see that you can start living your life in such a way that you're not a victim of it all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said.
This is what African spiritual traditions can teach us, even if we're not practicing it. Yeah, remember, you don't even have to practice it because we're all breathing, aren't we? But you're connecting with one of the energies in African spiritual traditions. Towards the wind is sacred.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Well said. And if there's anything I've learned from a child, and I said that you can't see the image of Oshun on the screen, I became far more curious. Yeah, and I couldn't understand why the information appeared to be clouded. Yep, I needed to understand was clouded. Even till today, that information remains in some ways clouded. Okay. And of course, the propaganda that will be perpetrated by those the religions of Abraham to denigrate our spirituality are all designed in order to capture and hold African minds. Okay? And I recognize that. So of course they will perpetrate and propagate negativity about who we really are.
Yeah.
And that's abundantly evident to me, but I say to those who are affiliates, I say, I respect you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I respect you. But at some point, we have to grow up. Yep.
Yes.
We can become far more than the information that is currently being supplied to us. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So let me just go to our next question, because it's getting quite warm around here. Okay. So let me just move on.
Okay.
Where would you recommend viewers start their journey to understand our religious, indeed spiritual traditions? Where would you start? Where would you begin the process?
You know, this and I don't want it to seem and come across as such, but the first place that I'm going to recommend is and this is from my own educational initiative, and I'm going to explain why, because this is not shameless self-promotion at all. I will recommend everyone to go to ancestralvoices.co.uk. We have a course there. It's a free course called the 5-day e-course. And the reason why I'm recommending this as a starting point is because you get to hear being myself and my wife share our own personal journeys into attaining a greater or heightened consciousnness of how spirit works in our lives. And also because from one of our most prominent Black scholars and elders, James Smalls, and we've had many affirmations since then, you won't find a body politic or a piece of work that has taken its time out to correlate, systemize, and put together the various African philosophical thought from millennia ago up until today. That shows you clearly that what we call African spirituality, even though it's not the best description for it as of now, it's a process of learning and moving on. Yeah, what we call African spirituality, what was being practiced in the Asian Nile Valley some 6,000 years ago, you will still find it living and breathing in places like Haiti in Haitian voodoo. You will find it living and breathing in places like South Africa. You will find it living and breathing in places like Brazil, where the African presence also still remains. Because again, like I made the point at the beginning, what we're dealing with when we talk of African spirituality, we're just talking about life. Life, really, you can't put a beginning point and an ending point to it. Yeah, because life is just energy. We exist because we are expressions or packets of energy. You know, so going back to your point, Brother Martin, for you to be able to find, because sometimes when people start their journey, they'll say something like, oh, because I'm Ghanaian, I'll only go and learn about the Akan people because, you know, my dad is, I don't know, Fanti. So the only spirituality that should work for me is the Akan spirituality. No, not necessarily. Because again, we're all breathing the same air, aren't we? It's not only just the Akans breathing the air somewhere. You know, somebody might wake up and just say, oh, I'm going to the Zulu because I'm from that tradition. But we need to see where we're connected. Yeah, which are the 5 core ideas that we find in every African spiritual tradition that has been established since the time of the Nile Valley to today. What are the 5 core ideas around them that they all share? And I already mentioned one for us: nature. Yeah. Ancestral Voices is the only educational resource that has brought all these ideas together clearly and proven the fact that they come from the same source. Obviously, there are many other places where you can go and study, but then they're all tradition specific. So, you know, you'll be only learning about a Yoruba Ifa, or you will be learning about, let's say, Cuban Santeria. And that's fine too. But before we start, we need to see what is it that glues all these traditions together. So you don't then start practicing and become, I guess, what, for lack of a better word, what you call a tribalist. You know, and you find in Africa somebody will say, "Oh, I'm Ewe, so I don't like any I don't know, Dagomba people." This is what brought on the Rwanda war, isn't it?
Yes.
So we don't need that. First, look at how all the systems connect together. And then if you're drawn to a particular one, of course, then take your learning further. You might want to go and do an initiation to learn about specific aspects of that culture. Yeah. But it's important for you to see first that all these cultures actually have a common base.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
it's very important. Then we do not move as if we're being insular, Yeah. Oh, my Ifa is better than your Candomblé. No, we don't need that kind of separation. So the first place I'll ask everyone to do is go to ancestralvoices.co.uk. You can take the free 5-day e-course. For those who actually want to start learning about the philosophies, the sacred concepts, we have a course there called the Home Study course. It has 2 videos, a book, and some e-pamphlets as well that they can read. It's a very family-friendly resource. You can watch it with your children. You can have discussions thereafter. And the home study course will give you the total systemic package of what an African spiritual system looks like in thought as well as in practice. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You can't see it, but I'm now transmitting the page of the ancestral pages. It's there, and it's ancestral voices with an S at the end. .co.uk. Ancestralvoices.co.uk. And those of you who are viewing us via YouTube and Facebook, you can see the page in front of you. Thank you. That was an eloquent description. And of course, what I strive for in my other hat are inclusive narratives. Okay?
Yes.
Because the insular narrative, which I'm exposed to continuously, has not helped us.
Yes.
We now need to develop a broad range of inclusive narratives, and you epitomize that inclusive narrative.
Yes.
Thank you. That was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. I'll stop sharing that particular page now. And I also want to, if I may, I'm going to bring up another page. And the other page I want to bring up is, of course, is your petition.
Yes.
And I want you just to remind us of what the petition, again, I don't think you can see it on your screen. I just want you to remind us from what the petition is intended to achieve. I'll just show it. It's on the screen now. Now describe the petition. The list of OSUN festivals is part of UK celebrated religious festivals. Why should they sign this petition? It's on the screen now. Please go ahead, Daniel.
Well, the first thing why we need to sign the petition, I've already maintained it. If you're quote unquote African/Black person, this matters for you, because this is the source of all the racism, of all the discrimination that you face. Your culture makes certain people uncomfortable, and remember, without culture, there is no you. You are a product of your culture. Okay, so the racism is not because of your should we say your skin color or a particular religion that you're following now. It's because of this, what you really are, which is your African cultural traditions.
Indeed.
Okay, this festival is celebrated by millions of people all over the world, but they have to do it individually. Nigeria, its origin, is the only place where it's celebrated at a national level. So how can we talk about respect for human beings and, our religion is about love, XYZ, when this festival is not in the UK's calendar? So where the 5 human values that the UK government talks about all the time? Yeah, we have the Equalities Act, which should allow this festival to be on the national calendar, but it's not. We have the Human Rights Act, which should allow freedom of religious expression. So why is this festival not on the UK's calendar? I don't know. But UK says it's a democratic country.
Yes.
Yeah. Eid is celebrated for Muslims. You can take time off work to go to Eid. You will get paid. You can't get no paid off time work to go to your manager. The first thing your manager is even most likely going to ask you is, and who the hell is OSUN? You know, I don't know anything of, and we had this situation because a brother who was in the British Army came to us to try and get some assistance because he wants to identify himself as an African spiritualist, but it's not recognized in the body politic that there's anything like an African quote unquote religion. There has been no space made for us. So this petition is very important because it can open doors to better representation and more access to what we deserve from the political ideas that we live under, you know, because we all claim we're living in a democratic country. So why is this festival being marginalized? It's celebrated by millions of people. UNESCO recognizes and protects this sacred grove of Oshun. Yeah, it's a festival that is listed as part of its heritage protection status. So how can this festival not be on the UK's calendar?
Agreed. And what I'm going to say here in that case is that if viewers, listeners want to sign the petition, they need to go to change.org, and I think it's List Oshun's Festival. I think we put Oshun, it should come up anyway. It will come up.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Once you go to change.org and you type in Oshun, it will give you, because there's many other listings related to Oshun. So the one that you need to look for is List Oshun's Festival as part of UK's celebrated religious festivals. It's very important that we really need momentum on this, and for it to be changed at a political level.
Okay. Thank you. Now, this has been such an important show in so many fundamental ways. We talked about the psychological benefit of, particularly for children.
Yeah.
Particularly for children. Can you imagine a child who becomes culturally centered and is aware that traditions that have lasted thousands of years are an integral part of who they are and is appreciated, celebrated by themselves and their wider community? Isn't that an outstanding psychological boost? Yeah, such a child becomes a formidable adult, man or woman. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep, man or
yes. Such a child finds their genius, Brother Martin, because that child is fully aware of who they are, and the lineage they come from. So no one's going to be able to be filling your mind with ideas that you're less than them because their ancestors only recently took power, and they took the power by force. They didn't even take the power via human cooperation. So we're all victims of an oppression that makes us, we're all victims in one way, shape, or form. Because the oppressor didn't just oppress us. In doing so, they oppress themselves too. Colonialism has been should we call it a double-edged sword? It's not just us who are victims. Those who are doing the oppressing have also made themselves victims.
Absolutely.
We need to change this state of beingness, though.
We need to change the paradigm without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm just very conscious of our time. I haven't even opened the phone lines, which is, you've been so engaging. I know. Oh, it often happens to me. And I know that I will very soon need to release us from the Galaxy network. But if you've got a few more minutes, I will open the phone lines. Because I gather that there are some people, according to the messages I'm receiving, who want to talk directly to you. Is that okay? Maybe 10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah,
good.
No problem.
So we'll very shortly have to sign off the Galaxy side at 10 o'clock. But I'm interested to hear from listeners. And I'm going to put the number up so that those listeners who wish to call in and speak directly to, I'm going to continue to say, Elder Darian. Okay.
He's not an older. He's not an older. In our culture, he wouldn't be an older.
I said elder.
He's not an elder. He's probably around my age. He's not an elder.
Can I tell you my emphas? Can I tell you?
I'm taking offense to this. He's probably my age, but I'm not an elder.
Hold on, my emphas. The knowledge he's sharing is that of an elder. It is. He said it was such an eloquent and inspired way. And last time he was here, you were actually with your wife last time, I might add, but never mind. I'll come back to that later on. Your wife was wonderful as well. So, but the knowledge and the manner in which you are sharing it was the stature of an elder. I want to recognize, I see that in you, someone who should be listened to. I'm going to give out the number. So the number to call if you wish to interact with Elder Daniel is as follows. It's 0208 133 5616. If you're in the UK, it's 0208 133 5616. If you are outside the UK, you take off the 0, so it's +44. Then, of course, 208 133. That's right, 5616. Okay. You're viewing us via YouTube or Facebook. You can both see and hear us, and you can see the number on screen as well. So I believe maybe a few more minutes. I will have to now come off the Galaxy network, but forgive me for Galaxy listeners, can't kind of run over time. But Elder Daniel was such an engaging presenter to us that I've run over time. So I apologize to the Galaxy listeners, but I'll disconnect from the Galaxy network and respect to the Galaxy management, of course. I'll disconnect from them, but we'll continue transmitting via YouTube, Facebook, and of course, Mixcloud under the
If you can
Motivator.
give me just 1 second, please, brother.
Of course. Okay. Now then, so what I'm going to do, just disconnect and you just take that off for a moment. Let's get
Well, as you know, I've got gym time. So that was very intriguing. I will have a healthy discussion about it with you later. But it has been very, very interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
And thank you for today's viewers. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. I hope you manage to do your Christmas shopping for those who celebrate Christmas. If those who are not celebrating Christmas, relax, enjoy some TV time. Morocco's playing Croatia today as well. Sorry, I just have to add that in. But yes, have a great day. I'm going to get ready for my shopping. Thank you, Darlene, for coming on our show today. I appreciate
thank you too.
to
Good meet you as well. My
I've met you before, Darlene, at a spiritual conference before. So I know.
Where was this? Was this with
not far from Camden. It was in a hall.
Yes, with Nigel, Center of Pan-African Thought.
Yes, it was there. And there was a guy from a Sudanese guy as well. So I remembered you. So when the counselor said you were coming on, I remembered you instantly. So yeah.
I thought you looked familiar as well.
Yes,
you know?
I've seen you before. Man. So yeah. I move about in the circles of London. So yes. But yes, have a great weekend, guys, and we'll definitely catch up soon. Take care.
Too, yeah?
Bye.
All right, beautiful. Take care.
This is again one of those important connections, you see. So here on the Motivator Show, I'm now going to invite listeners to call in on 0208 133 5616 in the UK. If you're outside the UK, it's +44, then followed by 208 133 5616. And those of you who had some difficulty getting through, I've sent messages to you on text or WhatsApp, so you can connect to the studio now. Okay, we welcome your calls because it's been a truly engaging discussion so far. So Elder Daniel, in taking the next step on what you've described, okay. Have you been able to interact with leaders from our community who are both Christians and Muslim in order to gain this inclusive narrative, a means of understanding each other to establish mutual respect?
Yeah, very good question, Brother Martin. Just at the risk of not, obviously I don't mention any names and whatnot, but yeah, no, we've had very, very low support from our community in particular. I've seen some of our politicians, as I've said, they have no problem going to a puja which is the Hindu tradition of celebrating, the Diwali especially. You see them up in all these mosques taking all these photo ops. But when we've written to them, because I'm part of a political body called the Council of African and Diasporic Spiritual Systems, and we've taken it upon ourselves to correct their wrong that continues to be done to us, because there should be absolutely no reason why in this day and age, especially also to have this UN recognition that African spiritual traditions are still marginalized in this way. So what CADIS fights for is the political recognition and to be afforded the socio-political rights that all religions are given, bar none. African spiritual traditions deserve the same.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the fuel or the fire that pushes us forward in terms of changing this narrative and this state of marginalization.
Can I just ask you, just pause for a second? Can I just say, ask those who are calling me via my other line, if you could take note of this number and dial the studio number, I'd be grateful, which is 0208 133 5616. Okay, so 0208 133 5616. Okay, if you could call that number, a lot easier to interact. Okay, all right. I'm getting calls on my other number for reasons anyway. Okay, so coming back, so I understand what you're saying, but I'm trying to understand what would be the source of the resistance, do you think? What would be the source of the resistance?
It's shame and lack of perceived power. So some of the black we didn't even approach.
Forgive me for interrupting. I've got a call on the line. Let me just take this caller. I know this one will be fine. Caller with number ending, if I can get it right, 1733 or 7733.
Hello, good morning, brothers and sisters.
Good morning.
Yes, it's Samuel here.
Mm-hmm.
In my attempts to avoid identifying myself by labels, which are all man-made anyway, given to us often by others who have no interest in ourselves. I'm just Samuel for convenience.
Okay.
But the thing I wanted to ask is that whereas religion has robbed us in many ways, how do we have a presence in the undeniable fact that we live in the physical medium, and as much as spiritual aspirations we may have, we cannot deny the needs of the flesh, the body, and so on. And you will know from our ancestral teachings that the equilibrium between the physical and the spiritual cannot be denied. Neither end can be denied. So the question is this: as religious groups have managed to capture the materialism of the world under their umbrella, so you have the Islamic banks, for example, and you have the Christian Western capitalist system. How do we conjure African spirituality to take hold of our material essence and be in control of it? Thank you.
Ooh, interesting question. Daniel, you want to unpick that question from Samuel?
Yeah, it's a good question. It speaks to everything that I've already mentioned, which is the fact that even those of us who do not deem it worthy of practice, or are not familiar or want to practice the basic, we all need a certain basic understanding of some of his concepts, because those concepts are relevant to us. And again, this is where the label of African spirituality, just because we're using that word spirituality, everybody's mind confines to the fact that it has to do with some kind of religious thing. But let's remember, in African spirituality, even the healing of your body is an aspect of that. Because for a herbalist to know what type of herb to get for your particular ailment, they have to be able to have a certain synergy and dynamic with the plant life. They have to be able to have a means of communication. So it's also medicine. But why are we calling it African spirituality?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So this is what speaks to the fact that because it is limited in such a way, and this is what the powers that be, we have to understand that they are not just going to sit idly by for it to take hold.
Mhm.
One of the top UK, one of our scholars, Dr. Femi Biko, he says it best. He says African spirituality possesses the capacity for you to police your mind.
Yes.
Yeah? If your mind cannot be colonized,
Mhm.
capitalism is not working. White supremacy is not working. So why would they allow you to, just open up the doors for you to willfully find the information that will allow you to, I guess, think above a certain paradigm? It's not gonna happen. So when I keep saying, and maybe when I say it doesn't, I don't emphasize just how important it is. This is really the only important thing. If we're trying to even have just autonomy over our small little lives. Okay, so African spirituality, to go back to the brother's question, it's not just about, as you said, the material aspect. African spirituality is everything, it's life. The material aspect is a part of it. Let's not forget, it's only also African spirituality which gives us areas of freedom and autonomy, areas they call quilombos, or liberated spaces during the times of enslavement. Just about every quilombo found all across the Americas, even on the continent, they were dealing with the ancestral ways. So that speaks to you automatically that the ancestral ways also contains the political consciousness we need, the social organization principles we need. I already talked about medicine, healing from the herbs that we live with. Yeah, then we can also then talk about the familial aspects. We need to take the time to go and learn these concepts, just to make them aware of, to make us aware of how they operate. Because, for instance, let's take the example of climate, the climate change that they're making so much noise about, right? Africans, wherever we would farm on even any type of scale, we would understand how the ecosystem of that area works before we engage in the farming. When you come from a capitalist point of view, it's just how much money can I make in the shortest period? So I'll just come and I'll farm, make my profit, and I shift off. So if you were someone that had even taken the time out to read some of the thoughts on African sacred sciences, you will
Yes.
come to find that already this idea of climate change, you can mitigate it because you know that you and nature share a certain deep bond that must always be respected in
Right.
everything you do. So
Right.
that will even shape the way you decide to go and farm a piece of land.
Yes, that's right.
Do you understand? So when I talk about the fact that we need to go and at least learn these basic principles, I say that with the utmost urgency. Because remember, again, going back to the material side, because I don't want to jump from that point, it's only our ancestral traditions that gave us liberated spaces. And most important of all, even gave us a liberated nation that
Yes.
continues to suffer today just because it managed to debunk the idea that white or Europeans were all supreme and everybody had to be their servants.
Propaganda. Yeah.
Americans couldn't do it. The Chinese, Japanese to today still haven't been able to do it. The Arabs haven't been able to do it. A small nation of Africans did it. And they didn't do it by going to do anything spectacular. They lived in their ancestral consciousness. And that gave them everything they needed to be able to attain their freedom, create a constitution, which ended up influencing people like Karl Marx to write a
Yes.
Communist Manifesto.
That's right.
Because until Haiti was created, there was no egalitarian model of governance anywhere in Europe. Prove me wrong. The history tells us the story, but because we're not doing enough reading of that history, many of us don't know. So we walk around with potential that we're not even making an effort to actualize. And the only thing where we can go and find this knowledge and information is within our ancestral ways. So, yes.
Beautiful. Samuel, you have a comprehensive response to your question, huh?
Yes, I'm working on I'm doing a piece of work currently, which will attempt to make a connection between economy, the materialism, which we cannot escape, deny,
Yep, absolutely.
our ethereal essence.
Yes.
Those two are interlinked, and it's absolutely important that we take our rightful place in the world.
We have to.
So thank you for your answer, and I hope we can work together. I'd like to mission with you, brother.
Yes, I'm more than happy. Just go to our website, send us an email. We can begin the connection from there, you know. And also, sorry, brother, I should have actually said this on the show. We were having a discount in our learning resources. So for anyone who wants to, you know, learn more about the philosophical standings, the cosmological standings within African spirituality, our home study course is currently on a 20% discount. So if you go to our website, again, ancestralvoices.co.uk, the code you need to use, everything is actually on the website. So do take advantage of the opportunity if you're so guided, you know.
Thank you, Samuel, for the call. Thank you for that call. Okay. I think he's heard us. I think he's heard us. Yes. I realize the time. I've gone way over my.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Samuel, for the call. Thank you. I've got to say, Elder Dadian, this has been a truly inspired presentation. I had an inspired guest last week. You're both on another level. You are on a level that is so inspires people that they're motivated into actions, and that's the purpose of these shows. You know, that we translate these words into actions, actual actions that make a difference. And then I remind people, of course, that success is ours for the taking. Okay, it's very much that mindset. You said it so eloquently. I'm going to let you go now.
Thank you, brother Martin. But it's always a pleasure being here. So, you know, feel free whenever you need again. We can always work something out. Yeah.
Keep us informed of any developments or initiatives. I will keep sending out details about the petition, because the petition is the right step that we must take as a community. Absolutely. If we are to affirm our presence here in Britain, it is absolutely the right step. You don't need to be Muslim or Christian, a Hindu or other to have a clear affinity with this petition. Okay, recognizing African spiritual traditions is an integral part of us being full citizens here in Britain, and recognizing our place in this country, indeed in the world. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Brother Martin. Please keep sharing. Please keep supporting, and let's do this work together. We have to. We owe it to ourselves.
To your wife and your family. Thank you so much.
Very much. And same to yours, yeah?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, bye for now. Bye.
I say to you all, that was an outstanding presentation by Elder Dadian. And I commend his work to you, and those with him, their work to you. It's not an individual, it's a collective effort. The effort to affirm our position here in Britain, to recognize our cultural, our historic position is an important step forward. And for the children, and this is really for the children, the psychological benefits, the boost indeed that will be provided to the children will be tremendous, will be tremendous. So, on this occasion, I say to you all, these programs will have no place, would have failed, if we haven't moved you to action. This show, this edutainment medium we're using would have failed if we have not moved you to action. I pause because I want you to take those words in, okay? Because you can make a difference. We will make a difference together. So, until the next strong, this is the motivator, where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. See you next strong. See you next strong. Thank you for your listening ears and your wonderful eyes. My blessings to you all. Take care. Take care. Take care.